Hey, so, this one's a little hard to talk about. It's not that I'm scared to remember it or anything. It's just one of those stories that kind of sticks with you, you know, like something that feels so real even after all this time. You still can't quite explain it without sounding crazy, but I'll try my best. So back in the early 2000s, I moved into this apartment with my uncle. He had the main bedroom, and I had the spare. We just moved to the city, and it was the first place we got on our own. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, kind of old, but clean. The kind of place that felt like it had a story already, even before you brought your own stuff in. Now, my uncle had to travel a lot for work. The first week we moved in, he had to fly overseas, so I was alone in the apartment for a few nights. The first night was quiet, but the second, something happened. I don't know what time it was, but I remember waking up from a deep sleep to someone saying my name, clear as day, not yelling, just like a whisper close to my ear. I shot up, heart racing, turned on the lamp. Nothing. Room was still. Air felt heavy, like the kind of quiet where your ears almost ring. I tried to shake it off, telling myself maybe it was just a dream. But then I started hearing voices. Faint, like kids murmuring in the next room. Or maybe a woman. Couldn't make out the words, just the tone. Low, hushed, almost like gossiping. And every time I tried to focus, it stopped. I told myself it was the pipes or the neighbors. You know how buildings can be. But it didn't stop there. Once my uncle got back, he didn't notice much at first. But my mom came to visit a few days later, and while she was cooking in the kitchen, she turned around real suddenly, swore someone had touched her scarf from behind. She thought it was my uncle being playful or something, but he wasn't even home. Another time, she was sick and resting in the guest room. Next morning, she asked if I had checked on her in the night, said she heard someone open the door and peek in. I hadn't. I'd been asleep the whole night, and I hadn't heard anything. It was little things like that started piling up, not terrifying, just strange. There was only one night in that place that truly scared me. It was winter. I remember it because the heater wasn't working well, and it was freezing. But I woke up drenched in sweat, not just damp, soaked. My sheets, my shirt, like I'd run a marathon. My heart was pounding, and all I could think was get out of the room. I didn't know why. I just knew I had to move. So I walked out into the hallway, shivering, panicked. And that's when I saw her. A woman, standing at the end of the hall. She wasn't clear, like a figure in full light. It was like, you know when you see something from the corner of your eye and you think it's nothing, but then you know it's something. That's what it was. Only this time I didn't just sense it. I saw her. She wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. And then she was gone. I didn't leave the apartment. I didn't run. I don't know why. I just whispered, out loud, "Look, I'm staying here. You're staying here. Let's not mess with each other." I don't even know why I said that. But after that, things calmed down until a few years later, I got married. My wife moved in. And for a while, things were fine. Then my cousin came from back home and took the second room. We went away on our honeymoon, came back, and the place looked weird. Kitchen counters had half-eaten food on them, empty soda bottles, crumbs everywhere, like someone had made a mess and left in a hurry. My wife was annoyed. She thought my cousin had left it like that. But when I asked him about it, he got real quiet. He told me that for the past few nights, stuff he'd left on the table would disappear by morning. He thought maybe he was sleepwalking or something, but then he saw it. One night, he saw the watermelon. He'd left half of one on the counter, and the next morning, it was gone. Not thrown away, not eaten, just gone. When I checked the trash, everything else was there. Wrappers, plates, but not the watermelon. And then things got weirder. I started finding chewed bones under the bed, like someone had eaten the meat off and left the marrow. Some were almost powdered down. My cousin never ate anything like that. Neither did we. I started believing it wasn't just weird energy anymore. It felt like something was living there with us, something that didn't like being noticed. Years passed. We eventually moved to a bigger house. My brother-in-law moved in with us, along with our kids. It was a nicer place, newer, but that feeling, it came back. He said he'd hear footsteps at night. The dog would freeze near the door and growl at nothing. Then there was the bowl. One night, we heard a loud crash from upstairs. We ran up. One of those thick glass bowls had shattered. The weird thing was, the top half was still on the table, untouched, and the bottom half was in pieces on the floor, and the scented potpourri inside, still sitting perfectly in place, like nothing moved it. We had cameras installed, but I couldn't bring myself to check the footage. I was scared of what I might actually see. My daughter started acting strange. She was only 10, but she became distant, angry, always in her room. She told me one night that she didn't like sleeping alone anymore. Said she felt like something watched her through the window. I slept next to her that night. Had the worst dream of my life. I dreamt that something climbed in through the tree outside her window. Not like a burglar or a person. Something wrong. It opened the window, stared at me and my daughter for a long time, and then left. Just like that. When I woke up, I couldn't even tell her. I couldn't scare her more than she already was. Last straw, my wife walked into the kids' room late one night and saw something rise up from between our sleeping sons and run out before she could even react. That's when we decided we had to leave. We stayed there 2 years, 2 whole years. I don't know why we lasted that long. Things started falling apart. Our moods, our luck, even our health. Like the house itself wanted us gone. We moved out. Just couldn't take it anymore. The landlord kept trying to rent that place out, but no one ever lasted more than a few days. Eventually, he just gave up. It's been sitting empty ever since. But sometimes, I wonder. I don't know if whatever was in that apartment followed us, or if it just found us again later. But even in the new house, things still happen. We hear footsteps. The lights flicker. Sometimes, we still see her, standing in doorways at the end of the hall. Just like before. It's funny to say this, but we've kind of gotten used to it. Whatever it is, it's never hurt us. It just watches. Hey, so, I don't usually talk about this, but it's been on my mind again lately. You know how some childhood memories come back out of nowhere, and suddenly you're back in that house, reliving it. This happened when I was around 9 or 10. I lived with my parents, my little brother, and 2 dogs. We were that kind of close-knit family, ran around the yard all day, came inside muddy and tired, got yelled at for tracking dirt on the floors. It felt normal, but it wasn't. It started the day my little brother got sick out of nowhere. We were outside playing like always, and he just collapsed. Not fainted, collapsed. His arms and legs stretched out like a cross, his whole body stiff as a board. He wasn't moving, and when I looked at his face, his eyes were rolled back completely, like all I could see was the white. I screamed for my mum. She rushed in, panicked, trying to shake him awake. Nothing worked until she started praying, whispering verses while sprinkling water on his forehead. That was the first time I felt like something had shifted in our home. Something invisible, but heavy, like the walls were breathing. After that, he changed. He didn't speak about what happened, said he didn't remember anything. But from that night on, he started sleepwalking. And I mean really sleepwalking. Eyes wide open, but totally blank. He'd stand in the hallway, staring at my bedroom door. Sometimes he'd come in while I was still awake, walking slow, like he didn't even know where he was. His eyes were red, glassy. I'd freeze, too scared to move. He never talked, just stood there. And then he'd turn around and walk away like nothing happened. The next morning, no memory at all. One night, I woke up to him tugging my hand. He didn't say anything, just pulled me with him. I followed, more confused than scared at that point. He led me to this little storeroom in the back of the house. We never used it much. It was always dusty, smelled like old wood and rusted metal. He pointed to a corner and said, "The dog's in there." I peeked in and almost threw up. He said one of our dogs was hanging there, skinned. But when I blinked, it was just a pile of boxes. Nothing was there. I freaked out, ran to my mum. We checked on the dogs, and they were both totally fine. My brother, still blank-faced, like I made the whole thing up. Doctors said it might be an allergic reaction from playing too much with the dogs, some nonsense about overstimulation and fevers, but none of it explained what he was seeing. And then came the knocking. We had this small bathroom near our bedrooms with a narrow window facing the back alley. At night, I'd hear these sharp knocks, 3 in a row, always 3. I told my parents, but they thought I was imagining things. So one night, I asked my brother to stay up with me. We waited. Hours passed. Nothing happened. I started thinking maybe they were right. But the next night, the knocking came back. Louder this time. Almost like it was inside the bathroom. We heard it for weeks. Then other things started happening. Light would flood our hallway at night. Not soft light, blinding. It would come from both windows at once, flash through the curtains, then disappear. My dad thought maybe it was an airplane or something, but it made the walls vibrate. That's not something airplanes do. When I got older and started college, the house didn't feel any less strange. One night, I was in bed reading with the door cracked open. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone standing in the hallway. I looked up. There was this figure, not moving, not speaking, just there, a shape darker than the shadows around it. I stared at it for maybe 6 seconds, and then it was gone. No footsteps, no door creak, just gone. I tried to tell myself I was tired, but that same week, something even weirder happened. I had this little pendant with a verse on it. I kept it on my nightstand. Late one night, I woke up to this glowing thing hovering near it, like a little ball of light. It didn't look like any light I've ever seen, not like a flashlight or phone glow. It was alive, and then it shot straight into my chest. I swear to you, I felt it. This sharp pressure in my chest, then ringing in my ears, like someone had screamed directly into my skull. I sat up gasping. Nothing was there, but I couldn't breathe right for minutes. I didn't even tell my family about it. Then came the scratches. Not from outside, not from the dogs, from inside the room. I was lying in bed, not even asleep yet, when I felt something drag across my back, like fingernails, long ones. I jumped up and checked the bed, the wall, my shirt. Nothing. A week later, my brother came to me, pale and shaky. He said he felt the exact same thing. The final straw for me was when my cousin came over with her little girl. The kid was sweet, maybe 4 or 5. We were in the kitchen when she suddenly started screaming. Not whining, screaming. She kept pointing at the living room window. Said there was a man outside watching us. She said his eyes were glowing red. We ran to the window. No one was there. She kept crying for hours. It was always the kids who saw things. My parents never experienced any of it. It was like whatever was in that house didn't bother with adults. Only us. The night before I moved out, my brother and I were watching TV. Out of nowhere, we both saw this boy, barefoot, wearing dirty clothes, run across the hallway and vanish into my old bedroom. We searched the whole house. Nothing. But the weirdest part, after he disappeared, a snake, not big, maybe the size of a finger, slithered out from under the couch and into the wall. We tore that place apart looking for it. Never found it again. Even after I left, some things followed me. Lights turning on and off, TV changing channels on its own, scratches on the bedroom door. Once, I heard heavy breathing in the room when I was completely alone. But you know what finally made it stop? I got fed up. One night, I just sat on my bed and said, out loud, "This is my home now. You can stay, but you don't get to scare me anymore." And after that, it stopped. I still don't know what was wrong with that house, or what it wanted with my brother.